today was maybe trying to stop you from challenging that play late in the game. Can you talk us through that?
Yep, I think, it was 3:50 to go. We had an extra timeout that we were going to lose before 3. The likelihood of getting another challenge is hit or miss. Obviously, there probably wasn't another play that we would have had there in that particular game. I tend to be pretty aggressive with challenges. I thought the initial contact was far enough back from what I thought they called it on, at least when the whistle responded, that I didn't think they'd go back and get that. I thought it might have been marginal anyways. It's another probability play. If they can call an offensive foul and Jokic there, it's his 6th. If you're taking free throws off the board, it's points. There's 3:50, you have an extra timeout. You're adding all that together. With the challenges, it's not just about trying to get them all right. It's about maximizing value. And again, it's a probability play. You're not going to get them all right, but again, you're trying to just tilt all the odds in your favor in every decision you make. That's what I try to do. There's an unsuccessful challenge, I'm responsible for that too.
Dub is coming off a really good series against the Grizzlies, struggled offensively in this round last year, struggled last night. What did you see from him in terms of the shots he was generating, and what's kind of the challenge for him facing a higher level of defense in this round?
Well, I thought, the first thing that was encouraging is he got off 3s last night, and that was one of the takeaways from last season's playoffs is he had those shots available, didn't shoot them as many times as he could have, worked on it all summer, implemented it this season, has shot it better. It's had impact on how people pick him up, how hard they close to him. It's opened up other parts of his game as a playmaker, as a driver. And so I thought that was encouraging. Just like I said about the team to Nick's question, in the playoffs, no player, no matter how good they are, is just like playing all these high-level games against high-level opponents and having great games. He had a great series against Memphis. We couldn't have more confidence in him. He's a far better player now than he was a month ago, never mind a year ago. So I'm not going to overreact to one game.
Mark, with a guy like Aaron Gordon, thinking specifically to the Dub matchup, I don't know if you see any similarities there. Obviously not 1-for-1, but between Aaron Gordon and PJ Washington and some of the things they offer. Like, is there a challenge there with Dub as far as getting his force into the game against that sort of archetype?
He gets guarded by guys like that all the time. He also gets guarded by a lot of other guys, including last night. So I think it would be an oversimplification, to make it about how he goes against that specific matchup. He got guarded by Irving last year in the playoffs. He got guarded by different guys last night. So, he didn't play his best game last night, but again, he's a much better player than he was a month ago and a year ago, and we have full confidence in him.
Look, you just the Chet missed dunk out of bounds. Is that right? And what did they explain why you couldn't do that?
Yep, I was trying to see if they could get approximate foul. First of all, I was clarifying that it was a basket interference and not an out of bounds. I was pretty sure you couldn't challenge it on a basket interference. I asked the official. He said, I'm pretty sure you can't challenge it. I said, you need to make sure you're 100% sure, because that would have been Jokic's 6th, I believe, as well. So that would have been a play I would have gotten if obviously I could have.
Jokic's size in and of itself creates major problems, but yesterday he was exceptionally physical, a lot of pushing, elbowing, different things. If he's allowed to play that way, because there were several times where you could argue he should have gotten that 6th foul. If he's allowed to play that way, does that require an adjustment on your part?
We can't control how the game gets called. That's the hardest thing, and it's different night to night. That particular crew, if you look at their analytics as a crew, that's a very tight whistle. One of the tighter whistles you're going to get in a playoff series with those 3 guys. So we knew going into the game that the game would be called pretty tight. Even with that, they let a lot of physicality go on the plays you're mentioning. But you got to go in the game, calibrate to what the whistle is going to be. Try not to let it impact how you play. But it's just, we can't get too caught up in things we can't control, and how the game gets called is certainly one of them.
In the minutes when you have both bigs on the floor, what goes into the thought process in terms of Chet being the primary defender on Joker, and then do you think having to be in that wrestling match for however many minutes it was impacts his legs on the other end of the floor?
I mean, I don't know about the other end, but I mean, he's a tough cover for anybody. You know, like he requires a lot of energy. He's a great player. The calculus on that, last night those guys both had fouls. So at that point, and they had fouls early, you know, so a lot of that game was moving things around, including Caruso out of halftime. You know, they both had fouls coming out of halftime. So it's like, let's get a guard out there, put one of them on the bench. That way if we pick up an early one, we've kind of preserved the other one. So some of it was adjusting to that. But Chet does a nice job on him. You know, he's guarded him in the past. His length can be effective on him. Obviously, it's a length versus strength battle. But we feel pretty good about that one. We feel pretty good about Hart, and we had guards on him at different times as well, and we feel pretty good about that. We have to execute better than we did all the way around last night. I mean, last night we lost the game because, at least the way we look at it, we lost the game because just way too many execution things that, you know, we gave up. And the good news with that is there's a lot of things we can clean up, and you know, they were 2 points better last night.
Mark, you guys were pretty good in the clutch this season, but you had by far the fewest amount of clutch games, clutch minutes, product of all of the blowouts. I know you wouldn't like trade any of those for closer games, but for a team this young and inexperienced, like, I mean, are you still learning about them in these sort of situations that they just really weren't in a ton during the regular season?
We were in, you know, a league average amount last year.
Yeah.
We've got most of the core back from last season. That sort of thing, you know, closing games, close games, that has a cumulative effect over time. That's not a year-to-year thing either. You know, that compounds. And this is a group of guys that have been in their share of pretty close games. And last night, you know, I thought the difference in the game, if you boiled it down, came down to like the last 5 minutes or so when we had a firm grip on the game. It wasn't a 1-point game at that point. And if you look at our track record this year and in the past, we've been pretty comfortable in those situations. We've usually been able to execute pretty well on both ends and slam the door on those games, and we didn't do that last night.
Did you like the shots you got when you went that cold spell? I think you were 1 for 8. When they kind of trimmed the lead, did you like the shots? Haven't looked at the film again, or you just missed shots?
I'll tell you what I didn't like about it is we were taking the ball out of the basket almost every possession, you know, and the game's interconnected, you know, and so they were on the free throw line a lot during that period of time. They made some shots during that period of time, and you're going to be going against a dead floor that late in the game when the ball's taken out of the rim every single time. It just makes it harder to generate offense. To answer your question, some of them, no, not great. Some of them pretty good. But generally, if you're mixing in 3 or 4 stops out of those like 8 or 10 possessions, you're going to get more flow coming up. You're going to get looser defenses. It's harder for them to get their matchups. It's harder for them to get their schemes. That's the importance of stops, you know, and I thought that had a lot to do with it as well.
Mark, you said last night that you weren't going to smother Chet after the difficult finish he had. I'm curious, how do you coach him through that following up, and how do you as a team make sure that doesn't linger for him?
I keep conversations that I have with guys, especially with any sort of sensitivity, private, and would ask that you guys would just respect that. You know, I'm not going to get into detail on any of that with any player at any time, but that's why you have a team, you know, and this is where, you know, we have a great opportunity and challenge with every single adversity we face as a team. You know, if a guy's disappointed in how he plays, this is a particular group that wraps their arms around that guy. And I'm not even speaking specific to him. I'm just saying these guys have a track record of doing that. And they also have a track record of staying highly connected through success, which is as hard or harder. You know, it's very difficult to stay connected through success. And this is a team that through successes and through adversities has become stronger over time. And that's what allows us to be confident and connected coming out of a game that obviously everybody was disappointed in last night.
And specifically with Chet, what have you seen in him these last 2 seasons that makes you confident in what his makeup is to overcome something like that?
I mean, he's the last guy I'm worried about as a competitor, the last guy. You know, from the way that he's handled the adversity of the injuries and having to work his way all the way back from that, his combination of like hunger and drive, but also consistent work to get himself back. I mean, he got back way earlier this year. You know, he got it back in the earliest timeline he possibly could have while being safe and responsible. And then as a competitor, I mean, the guy's just a monster competitor, you know, and so him, Dub, all the guys that we've mentioned, you know, like these are guys that want to be in these situations. We could be home right now, you know, like most of the league's home right now. We want to be in the arena. We want to be competing. We live for the opportunity to compete at the highest level, and part of competing at the highest level is adversity. And when we face it, we're going to pull together. That's what we've done over time. That's what we're going to do right now.